Welcome to the Ozhu. I'm your host, Beef Loaf. This show is being sponsored by our friends Punky's Pizza and Pasta, located at 2600 South Walls, my personal favorite eatery in the neighborhood. They have the best selections of pizzas and pastas, as well as sandwiches and salads of any spot in Bridgeport. Currently, they have what they're calling the Pizza Happy Hour, Mondays and Tuesdays only, between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. You order a pizza from Punky's, you get 50% off. Yes, you heard that correctly. 50% off of pizzas ordered Mondays and Tuesdays between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. How in the world can you get 50% off the best pizza in Bridgeport? The Pizza Happy Hour. Hit the website, punkyspizza.com, for all your carryout or delivery needs or to cater your next party. And catering is big on the holidays, so get your ass in there. You can also call 312-842-2100. The Scarlotta family will take care of you. Punky's Pizza and Pasta. This show is also powered by you, the loyal 108 supporter. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Feel free to tickle the undercarriage in the process. Like, comment, turn on notifications, and most definitely super chat. And that's how we can get paid and how we continue to make the content you know and love. Tonight's guest. He's a longtime guy in White Sox Twitter circles, a many-time participant in the 108 tourney. From throwing lot C tailgates to now being a dad, carting his kids around the ballpark, you can find him in section 110 on the regular. He's also part of the Future Sox gang, writing a regular column called Trending on the Farm, where you get the latest and greatest on your favorite White Sox prospects. And lastly, I believe he's a secret billionaire since he owns chickens. Sleepy Harold, welcome to the Ozhu, my friend.
Hey, how's it going? I wish I was a secret billionaire.
I still think you are. You keep it modest, but I know you got treasures because I remember the egg prices went up, and there was always pictures of you with the chickens. You stopped posting the pictures, and so that's what I know. You're a little anonymity there for you.
Yeah, we the chickens. Some of them got a little older, so they slowed down. So the egg market. I think it I mean, again, I don't know. I think maybe it leveled out some.
Sure,
but who knows.
I still believe it. I don't care. Let's get this drink here from Pedro Velasco Jr. He says, new pics and background, eyeballs. And thank you, Pedro. Appreciate you. I did put up a few new pics. I have Aloha Mr. Hand up there over my my left shoulder there, where he's like kind of like, I had to get him in there. Right above my head right there, I've got K-Fids with a circle around him and a line through there. Because I don't want him to get back integrated to White Sox Twitter just because Tanner McDougal is good. And I'm fearful that is actually happening. And then last but not least, I've got over my shoulder, I have the Wet Bandit had got the Tim Anderson All-Star jersey spelled wrong. It's spelled Adnerson. And he actually got that. And it wasn't from overseas. This was from MLB Shop. And they sent that bullshit jersey right there spelled incorrectly. So I had to get some new photos up here for the people. Steve, I decided that at some point I was like, I'm gonna do White Sox Twitter lore as my background. And so the other guys got bobbleheads and stuff. Me, I just have pictures of a variety of characters behind me. So
yeah, makes sense. I mean, it tracks. There's a lot of history in the pics, So it just, how deep do you really want to dig into it?
Want to go back? I've mentioned lots of tailgates. That's even our that's historic right there. We don't even talk about those anymore. I wanted to have you on because the White Sox have gone through a lot of stuff in the last several weeks, and I need to get someone on here who's in the weeds a little bit with the White Sox farm system, because I think for the casual White Sox fan, what's happening here to them seems like a lot of noise, but they don't really understand all the parts of what's occurring. And if you're a little more like addicted to this stuff, you're kind of like, oh, this is roster churn that real teams do that we never did during the Rick Hahn era. And so I think it's interesting to dissect some of these parts here. Before we get to the first question, my guy Nathan Sheba says, cut the White Sox chit chat. What's the first backyard breed layer would you recommend? Go ahead.
Okay. So Leghorns, very good. Very dependent. They're very reliable. We have Orpington that does good, solid layer as well. What else we have? There's a whole bunch of different breeds that usually, from what I found, the brown egg ones, those are you're going to get a lot more out of them, because we've had some
more volume come from those.
Okay. Yes, more volume. Okay. We had some blue and green laying chickens, and nice. After about 2 years, they just stopped. And now they're just freeloaders. We just feed them, and they just go around and do nothing.
Hang out, eat.
Just hang out to eat. Yeah, pretty much. So
I love it.
I mean, they're cool, and it's all, but I would say, the brown eggs, white eggs are the ones you're going to get, if you're trying to get the longevity out of it, that's what you want to shoot for.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Now, Sleepy, just to ask one more question about that, because I'm very interested. Now, do you get enough eggs where you're giving them to friends and family as well? Do you sell some of the eggs, or is it just all for your own personal consumption?
No, yeah. We give, sell, eat some.
Okay.
We eat way less than you would think for having chickens. At least I do. I mean, I can only eat eggs so often before I'm, egged out. But
right, I mean, how many eggs in a week could someone eat? That's the
exactly. It's cool. Like, it's fine when you have like 3 or 4 chickens and like you get 3 or 4 a day, and it's like, okay, it's like manageable. But then it just piles up, and when you got like 12 plus, it's like, well, we can't eat this many. So we got, luckily in the neighborhood, people know, and we have a fridge on the porch, and they'll just come up and a little deposit box they can drop money in, and
oh, nice.
They know the drill.
Man, I love that. That's fucking beautiful. Good way to spread it to the community. It's very nice there. Let's get to some White Sox here. Every year for the Rule 5 protection, and for the people who don't know, what each team goes through, and this is like the I think it's the Friday before. It was the Tuesday before. Each team has to go through and decide who they want to add to their 40-man roster, people who are newly eligible to be participants in the Rule 5 draft. And then the Rule 5 draft will take place over the winter meetings. Now, going way back in White Sox history, I remember when Jake Peter was not protected, and it was a huge fucking deal on Twitter. Now that we haven't gotten to those links again, because there was a lot of everyone making fun of each other and a lot of but people have been clutching pearls each year with people that aren't protected. And so the White Sox decided to really only make 2 protections, even though they had extra spots left in the 40-man. Obviously, you can go up to 40 on the 40-man. I think when they made these 2 protections, they were only up to like 37 at the time. They protected Tanner McDougal, which I think most of us thought was kind of a no-brainer. Had a great year last year, has pedigree. Sleepy, was that your kind of thought with Tanner McDougal? It's like, this is a super obvious one. He'd be picked first in the Rule 5 if they don't protect.
Yeah, I mean, that was like the biggest layup. No shit. Like, okay, this is going to happen, so fine. It was just about the who else, like, because everybody knew it's like, okay, given the season that, I mean, we don't really need to spend too much time on Tanner McDougal. He was awesome.
Right.
Because coming back, this was like his first full healthy season back post Tommy John. So he really, he changed up. I want to say changed or like tweak something with his offseason workout last year. And just, I mean, it all clicked. He took off. Control was there the whole time. And I mean, he was just nasty. So, it was a no-brainer. It was just like, okay, you have a bunch of spots and there's still fat on the 40-man. And you had some interesting guys that, had cases to be kept. And it was like, okay, what are you going to do? And
right. And what they decided to do was they decided to keep Duncan Davitt, which was, to me, a surprise. Were you surprised, Sleepy, that he was kept or added to the 40-man at this point?
Yeah. I mean, because, from going back, like he was, again, this is, he was the second part, I guess we'll call it, in like the Adrian Hauser trade. And it was sure, a flyer, interesting guy. And, dude logged a lot of innings. I want to say it was 152 he pitched between double and triple A last year. So, like, starter workload. But, like the numbers were, they were okay when he joined.
They were pedestrian, if you want to be truthful. Like, they weren't that great.
To be honest, yeah. They were fine. I mean, I guess. I mean, pitching in Charlotte, too, is tough. So I'm not going to really kill him for like, oh, your numbers got worse. It's like, well,
it happens.
You're playing in a little league ballpark, so like that'll happen. But but nothing was like eye popping. And so then, even when I was looking like a bit more into it, prepping for this, I noticed in the Sox Machine article that said his agent, Davitt's agent, talked to him at his wedding or like the reception. It was like, if you don't get traded, you might get on the 40-man. Which is just weird because like, did you want the guy? Like, why are you just adding him? Like, that's the part that didn't make sense to me is why are you going to trade somebody and then like, yeah, all right, screw it, we'll keep him. You know,
you're too valuable for us to just let you out loose on the street. So if we can't trade you, we'll keep you then.
I guess, yeah. So
like,
I mean, right? I guess that's the way to do it. But but even like digging into more of his numbers, I'm like, so maybe the surface level stats weren't telling the whole story.
Yeah.
But he tops out around 93, and it's like fastball, 5-pitch mix, cutter, change, slider, sweeper, curve, So he noted that there was a little velocity dip like in the midpoint of the season, wasn't sure why, which is okay. He's going to work on that.
Right.
It was just a strange selection given,
everyone else,
Adams,
everyone else in the room. I didn't want to get there because you're right. Yeah. You got Shane Murphy came off a great year at Double A, and people were looking at him as potentially one of those guys. Now he's not a high velocity guy. Mason Adams was he had the injury, so he had Tommy John surgery, but he had been very good. He was actually in the mix to potentially get starts in the 2025 season. And then Peyton Paulette, who they drafted, I believe, in the second round, and they quickly converted him out of being a starting pitcher into reliever. And he had a lot of success as a reliever. Had a little bit of a rough ride kind of at the end of the year down in Charlotte. But those three guys individually, were you surprised that any or all of the above weren't protected in this situation, Sleepy?
Yeah, so I guess Shane Murphy, like I love Shane Murphy. I've been following like since he was drafted and like started pitching, and he's just been good. Like he's performed at each level, given the assignment, the task. He was kind of put on the Danny Mendick plan. This is kind of digging deep into the weeds of Charlotte needs a starter. You're in Winston, drive the hour,
go there,
spot start, come back. Like he was given that, that designation, but has performed, and he was nails in Birmingham this year. And I not a flamethrower, but a 1.38 ERA in 110 innings pitched in Double A is not nothing.
That's silly.
It was a 3.7 walk rate, and to a 20.1 K percentage. So he was awesome. He was awesome, but like you mentioned, he's not a big velocity guy. It's like a command over stuff. So I get in that sense to where you feel safer leaving him off, because guys that are selected generally are like, bigger stuff guys. I mean, the command is important. It's not just to where, like, if you go back 10 years where dude throws 100, take him 1-1, and he can't hit the broadside of a barn, and then he's back on the original org before spring training's over. They've kind of smartened up from that. So like Murphy,
it's just been a shift. Yeah.
While I would have, he had a case, but I understand that one. Mason Adams.
Now with Murphy, one quick thing on that. So you understand the case basically being that, like, you don't think he's likely to get picked, even if he is probably deserving, maybe potentially to be on the 40-man. This may have been of the White Sox playing, well, we're going to be churning the roster. We might need these extra spots to bring people in here. We think the likelihood of him getting taken is lower, and maybe was the approach right there. Yeah,
I think so. I think they're playing the, okay, what are the odds that he's actually taken?
Okay.
Because then too, so if he is taken, he's got to spend the season on the roster, or have to be offered the major league roster, I should say, and then have to be offered back. And a guy that doesn't really pump velocities, your swing man, which you could do, but maybe, I don't know, like the Rockies could do it for sure. But
right. When you start looking at this, you're right. You got to be looking at the teams that are in similar situations to the White Sox, where they could house a player that it's not vital for them to win, and also fit them in a role that you could actually use them during the year. And that suits them appropriately. And so, that's where you start. The calculus starts to change. Like, if you're watching this, it's like, well, who could use that guy right now and manage to keep him on the roster the entire year? That would be like the pool of people that could select here. That's why when you're a White Sox fan and you look at everyone who gets left unprotected, we could pick any of them because we got the potential to do that with our roster.
Yeah. Yes. And so, which is kind of makes the interesting case for Mason Adams that he's currently hurt.
Yep.
So for the offseason, he would have to be, obviously, if he were to be drafted in the Rule 5, he gets thrown on the 40-man. And then there's a certain point during spring training where he could be placed on the 60-day IL and comes off and opens up the spot.
Yep.
For everything to work, he only needs to spend, I believe it's 90 days on the active MLB roster. So thinking, or the logic, I guess, is, okay, we don't have to roster him the entire season. We need to roster him for half. So you could take him, stash him on this 60-day IL. When he's ready to go on a rehab assignment, give him a month in AA, AAA, wherever it is, just to kind of get his arm back and get, some game action, game reps. And then for the last, June, July, August, whatever, however you want to do it, he's just, a guy out of the bullpen, which is a bit more easier to swallow at that point. That you can take a guy, stash him, free up his space, and then when he's ready to get back and see action, you don't have to just keep him on the roster the entire season and make it work. You can kind of play around with the spot until you have to do something with it.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. It leaves a lot more leverage for the team that would be selecting him to do this. If they were just trying to, hey, let's just grab another guy who has some starting pitcher pedigree, and we want to add this to the fold here. I remember probably 6 or 7 years ago, the Padres, when they had a horrible team, they went and grabbed 3 guys out of A-ball that were Rule 5 eligible and put them on their 25 or 26-man roster and just hid them and tried to turn them into prospects. Now, those guys didn't end up turning into much of anything, but this is a situation you could do this with Mason Adams as well, even though he's not as young as those guys were, and just say if you're the Rockies or Nationals or some team that's not going to compete, say we need more starting pitcher depth, grab the guy, throw him on there. And so I thought that was curious too, Sleepy, in that effect. Now, I guess the only thing going against Mason Adams is he's also not a guy who throws very hard. He's another very much command control guy over velocity with regards to how he makes his living as a starting pitcher, correct?
Yeah. He's the same way, command over stuff. But it was, again, he did awesome in 2024 in AA. And it's hard to deny the numbers, but if you're thinking at it on kind of the big brain aspect of okay, not flashy stuff, still hurt, going to come back, is somebody really willing to play with that? Maybe not. He's a guy I would have protected just to not risk it because, before he got injured, he had a track to at least join the White Sox last year in some capacity.
Oh, agreed. If he doesn't get hurt, I would have bet that he would have made starts in the 2025 White Sox exactly. For sure.
So that's why I kind of found it interesting that, he was pretty much at the doorstep, blew out, it happens, but then they just kind of, okay. Maybe they're not worried about it. And we can all be wrong. Again, I'm a big Mason Adams guy too. Because he's got started by piggybacking off Noah Schultz, and Noah Schultz would shove. And then this guy who 12th rounder, 11th rounder out of, some smaller school, Jacksonville, I think. And it's just this guy's been shoving too. And it's who is he? And it was just it just didn't stop, and that's what happened. And that's good. You want guys to unexpected guys to blow up like that. So,
right. And what's interesting here, here's a thought I had, Sleepy, and you tell me if I'm totally crazy. I thought that when I saw the way this went down, I thought that the reason why Duncan Davitt got the spot and why Mason Adams didn't is because the White Sox foresee themselves needing extra starts, especially the first 3 months of the season. And because one really can't provide them to them, and the other one actually could provide it, that was the absolute tiebreaker. I think you're right. If they were both healthy, I think you see Mason Adams get that spot. And I absolutely is a guy that they're you're starter number 6, and when something goes wrong here, you got the first chance to make the start up here. Because you have a pile of these guys already. You got Drew Thorpe, and you got Kai Busch, and they're already on the 40-man, so you can't do much with them. They're going to – I assume they'll start the season on the IL. I don't know if they're injured enough to go 60-day, they might be. But I think that the White Sox and all the maneuvering were like, we can't afford to have another arm that's in that state where we can't move it around,
Yeah, and I agree. And when I thought about it and sat down more and thought about it, I'm like, that angle makes sense. Isn't we're gonna need arms. How early? Who knows? If last year's spring training is any indication, and that seemed to be a fluke, but they had 6 guys need Tommy John.
Yeah, right.
Before they left Arizona, which is a lot. And so I could understand that. Okay, he's here. He's healthy. He's thrown a bunch of innings already. We're going to tweak something in the repertoire to try and get him. I think they were trying to work on his changeup more this offseason.
Okay.
I believe, or further developing it, I should say. So having him available, again, the best availability, the best ability is availability. He's here. He can pitch. So, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And now, Sleepy, with regards to Peyton Pallette, he's the guy whose name is ringing out in the streets right now that people are scared that he might get taken in the Rule 5. I think for the first 2 guys, there seems to be lesser concern out there on White Sox Twitter, but there seems to be a lot of concern that the one-inning reliever, which is oftentimes the type of player that does get plucked in these, and every team can kind of use that. It's not restricted to just the real hardcore rebuilding teams can fit these guys in the roster. One-inning reliever fits every roster. And so with Peyton Pallette, were you surprised he wasn't protected? And what do you see as the forecast? Do you think it's a potential that someone comes and grabs him?
Yeah. So to note, when Baseball America, they released their interesting, their list of interesting guys that are unprotected. Peyton Pallette was named on the list. There was 12, 13 players, whatever, and Peyton Pallette made it, which is just interesting to see. So it's okay. So, there is some buzz in the first iteration of it too, nonetheless, not like the 5th, he was a top name. So it's okay. So there might actually be something there. I mean, I had thought because he was coming back, he was another injured guy, Tommy John in college, came back, tried to start. It just did not work. They moved him to the pen and he took off. He was awesome. Had a solid year in Birmingham, got promoted to Charlotte, hit a little rough patch, but then kind of ironed it out. Yep. And then I thought at the end of the season, we all are aware of how the bullpen was and how not good it was.
Exactly. Yes.
I figured, I'm okay, at some point in September, maybe they just want to let him finish, a majority of the season in Charlotte or Birmingham, whatever. But they just never promoted him. So I don't know. That was kind of the first indication of okay, that seems odd. Yeah, he was your second round pick not that long ago, and he's been pitching well, and your bullpen stinks, and you're not going to give him a shot.
I was going to say you have 9 guys in the bullpen because that's by the time that rosters are expanded, where you're 14 and 14 on the other side. You have Vatsel, Isert, Grant Taylor, and Jordan Leisure, and then 5 bums. Waiver bait, basically, that you could just interchange and throw any of those guys away and bring them up. And they didn't. And I was shocked too, Sleepy, is it's wait, aren't they going to give this guy some run? Even if he's having a rough ride in Charlotte, let's see it because why not see it,
Yeah, and two, it's it goes back to how much are you going to ding a guy for not having the best numbers in Charlotte?
Right.
It's a tough place to pitch. And for a reliever, and there is a difference in the ball because baseball is weird and changes the ball as you go up in levels, which makes no sense, but that's not for this topic of conversation. It's no consistency, but still, you would have thunk, given the state of the bums in the bullpen, and how many times did I have to watch Tyler Alexander come in and just give up a lead or just walk a bunch of dudes and you can't just give the young guy you just drafted a shot. And if he stinks, he stinks.
Then you learn something, in my opinion, I wonder how much of it is the fact that, because I've read a little bit about Peyton Pallette, it's the velocity isn't the high end velocity. It's 96, 97. So, and he's a smaller guy. And then also I'd read that maybe that the breaking ball wasn't quite there, that he does spin a curve, but the slider maybe not enough. But regardless, I would have wanted to seen it too, Sleepy. I was this to me, that made no sense not to just get a look at it, even if the look was like, oh, okay, we have things to work on. Kind of, it's bizarre, and it does lead me to believe that maybe they've soured on him a bit, and that's why he's kind of sitting where he's sitting, and someone else might poach us too.
Yeah, and maybe this was a case of like they tried to trade him as well, and there weren't takers because they knew he was going to be left unprotected. It was just kind of odd. But for Paulette, like as you were mentioning earlier, he fits for every team essentially.
Yeah, that's right.
He's a guy. Oh, we need a 6-inning reliever. It's a blowout game or whatever. Right. He's a dude you can put in, and he's the 13th, 14th guy in your bullpen. Given the time of the year, whatever. Yeah. He's the last one, and that's how you can hide a guy and keep him on the roster. Tweak things in bullpens during the season and try to refine something if you like the stuff. So, I mean, I think given the state of like where he could actually feasibly fit into most rosters, I think he's probably the most likely to be taken. So it was just an odd handling of the 40-man, to say the least.
Absolutely. Now, is there anyone other than the guys we discussed that you were surprised with that they didn't keep, or is that the group in your opinion?
No, to me, that was the group, because there were like Sammy Zavala, but he's an A-ball. Nobody's taken him.
Yep.
An outfielder that's still there. And, he showed, he had a better season last year, but that's, nobody's taken that. And then like Aldrin Batista was interesting, but again, he was an A-ball in Winston and got hurt at the beginning of the year and came back at the end. If this is like you mentioned earlier, this is the Padres 10 years ago, maybe there's a risk for that, right? But nobody's really doing that now. So, no, I wasn't surprised. It was really just that group of, when we were first thinking in my head of like the list of who could be protected.
Yeah.
Duncan Dabbit was nowhere near it. I was like, okay, he's not going to be on this. So why even think about it? But yeah, I was surprised he was on it. Knew Tanner would be on it. And it was just kind of the other three between Adams, Murphy, Paulette, that like, okay, who are you going to make the case for? I would have, honestly, like if it were up to me, I would have just protected them all because you have the space. There was more fat you could cut off the roster.
Which they have. They're down to 34 now.
Yeah, down to 34, which is just like, okay. So now you have 6 open spots. So maybe the plan is like with the Rule 5 draft is in 2 weeks.
Yep.
Maybe they plan on taking a couple pitchers.
Could be, yeah.
Which was what they could do. So I don't know why yet. Unless they foresee some moves coming in between the time, because you can DFA guys up until you could be sitting at 40 on the 40-man up until the day of the Rule 5. Then you
just have to clear enough spots for whoever
you got to clear a spot
that day.
Make a pick.
Yep. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. Question in the comments from Figglesworth. She says, "Is that Morty?" Yeah, Morty's upstairs barking. Here's the thing: it's just me and Morty in the house. My family has left for holiday already. I'm going to leave. I don't leave till Wednesday, but yeah, he's up there barking. God knows at what. He's a protector of the house, though, so I allow it. That's absolutely should be done by Morty. Now, Sleepy, the name of the episode is "No Crying Over Ronny Hernandez," but I'm going to give you a moment to have your moment here. Ronny Hernandez went to the Red Sox for Chris Murphy. Go ahead, let it all out, my friend. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm not going to lie here. When I saw this tweet from Bob Nightingale, I thought he messed up and spelled Shane Murphy's name wrong. And I thought the Sox were trading Shane Murphy to Boston. But I'm like, oh, Chris Murphy is an actual baseball player. Okay. So that was on me, that one. But for Ronny Hernandez, like from following him when they signed him to the DSL, ACL, he was a catcher, young guy who just performed above expected, above league average offensively at each stop, being younger than the competition. The defense was a work in progress, but he was a 17, 18, 19-year-old catcher. That's generally the case for most people. Last year, power went up a bit, but all the other offense kind of backed up. Defense is still rough. So, he was a guy I liked given the age and the kind of skill set. He didn't strike out a lot. He walked, got on base, made contact. But, he was a guy I liked, and it stinks to see him go, but there's not really a path. And at least this time, trading with the Red Sox for reliever, this guy is about 7 years younger than the other guy, and who's not now a top 10 prospect in their system, hopefully, at this point next year.
I was going to mention that the Cam Boozer trade could not have gone worse. The guy the White Sox sent had rocketed up the farm system. Cam Boozer's now out on his ass. He's on the street. They're like, oh man, they're like, see you later, pal. Which I don't mind. Sunk cost, get rid of it, whatever. But that hindsight is not looking great. They go and redo the trade, and what's funny is the Red Sox did 2 trades like this. They traded for another catcher that was not like high up in someone's farm system, whatever. And I put my skepticals on. I was like, what are the Red Sox up to with these catchers that they seemingly like here? So I'm going to be watching it just to see what happens there. And you're right, the White Sox have catcher depth. They have it at the high minors. They obviously have it on the major league roster. I mean, they have too many catchers there currently right now. I assume Corey Lee might be on the move at some point here. And just for a reliever arm, I hope they get more out of him than they got out of Cam Boozer. But I said a couple novenas for you, Sleepy. I saw that you're a longtime Ronny Hernandez guy. I felt really bad for you, my friend.
Yeah. Oh no. I mean, I've been beat down by prospect trades or just falling flat on their face to not take it too personally. So it's it comes with the territory of of the prospect game is like people are going to get moved, and you just got to hope that the guys they're traded for don't stink. So
yeah, right.
Knock on wood. Hopefully we get some more utility out of Chris Murphy. Maybe he gets some starts in because he was a guy who was hurt, and maybe get some longevity, some spot starts, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, they do seem to weirdly be accumulating a fair amount of guys that you think that guy could probably throw 3 innings. You know what I mean? Like Grant Taylor's of that ilk as well. It's like, and obviously Vassell. It's like, what are we doing here, White Sox? I'm interested to see how it pans out because I'm open for anything right now. We are in the throw shit at the wall and see what sticks stage of the White Sox rebuild, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, and it's given the state of the team, it makes sense that collect all these arms. Somebody's got to be good.
Yeah,
like Mike Vassell, came out of relative nowhere. I mean, another Rule 5 guy, and he was good. Is he going to be that good again this year? Who knows? But
we'll see.
You at least found something for a year, or a guy who ate a bunch of innings, had a fun personality, and didn't look lost on the mound.
Yeah, that's helpful to see at this point in time.
Yes.
Now the Steven Wilson and Yoendrys Gomez for Everson Pereira and Tanner Murray trade to me seem to be a trade of both age and control, and it's like a bats for arms trade. Is this just like a standard low end gamble that a team that has a lot of arms already that can afford to get rid of a few of them is doing? Or do you see some upside in either one of these prospects that we got in this trade, Sleepy?
I mean, I'd say more with Pereira.
Okay.
I believe that's how you say it. Dude's mashed in the minors, which is, good. Has very brief. He only has 50 major league games, but I want to say he's 20, 23, 24. He's a young guy, but just hasn't really gotten a big opportunity yet. And
he's kind of blocked a little bit in New York, and then it went to Tampa and didn't get too much of it.
Yeah, which makes sense. He didn't really get a long leash, and maybe Tampa took a gamble and didn't like what they saw and said, all right, we can get more use out of these 2 pet arms than we can what might be a 5th outfielder or a guy, a call up guy for them. Toward the White Sox, you can at least get theoretically an extended look to see okay, can you put it together? Maybe I'm assuming this is a Ryan Fuller task of can we unlock something here to make him, a legitimate option in the outfield, because he's gotten good, some solid praise for his defensive work, maybe slowed down a little bit covering center, but that's kind of to be expected. So I think in that regard, he's definitely the prize of it. I mean, Tanner Murray to me, he just seems like a dude who, if you got somebody's hurt and you need the shuttle from Charlotte, here you go. He can cover. He's a utility guy. He can cover all the spots. Just nothing exciting. Like his minors numbers are okay from what I see. He just seems to be like a versatile, call up option, because BA had a nice little snippet. I'm going to pull it from them.
Yeah.
He played 25 games at second, shortstop, and third base in 2025 in all three outfield positions, although not really much of a center fielder. So he's a guy you can plug him in anywhere if you need him. And it's just probably, break glass in case of emergency option in Charlotte until hopefully you don't need him, but he's there if you do.
Yeah, I would say when I was reading up on him a little bit, it seems like it's contact over power, even though he did hit 18 home runs last year. So it wasn't like no power. It wasn't like this guy is just totally just hitting a bunch of ground balls. Like it seems like there is a little something there. And I wonder with some of these picks like this, Sleepy, like you're mentioning with Murray, is like how much of it is exactly what you're saying. Like, let's just make our AA and AAA teams better by grabbing these guys. Yeah, they got some potential upside, but how about some of it is just being like, let's put something around the pitcher we're trying to develop or the hitter that we have in the lineup there we're trying to develop, and like not have it be so feast or famine in some of these levels where it's like, yeah, you got a potential superstar hanging around here, and then it's like there's nothing around him. Like the Charlotte Knights are a last place team. Like, let's not have them be a last place team this time.
Yeah, and providing support for if you're sending other important, impactful prospects there, you kind of want to insulate them in the lineup a bit.
Yep.
So in that regard, like it does make sense to kind of add a little sense of security. And he's not a world beater by any means, Tanner Murray, but he's kind of reliable. You know what you're going to get. Can play him all over, and we'll just insulate the lineup a little bit there. And if you need him, you need him, because they did add him to the 40-man after, because he needed to be protected. And I checked, and he's on there. So I guess I added him
around there. Going back to Pereira for a second, yeah, I like the upside too. And they haven't. What's interesting, Sleepy, is they had been accumulating all these guys that have great control of the strike zone, but they don't hit the ball very hard. Like that was like the mold of like when they brought Miguel Vargas in, and then the Curtis Mead, and a lot of these guys were that guy. Pereira's the opposite of that. He does not control the strike so well. He hits the hell out of the ball, kind of all fields. There's a ton of power and speed in there. I thought it was interesting. I almost wondered too, because I heard Chris Getz mention like, well, he kills lefties. I almost wonder if like the initial plan for him is like, well, the way he's rosterable to us is we'll play him in the Austin Slater spot. Basically, you're going to be the right-handed caddy for whoever's in the corner outfield, as if we have any platoon situations. And then as the season goes on, they work with him on the things that they need to really work with him on against right-handed pitching, Sleepy.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that makes sense. And that is probably a safe approach rather than just throwing him right to the wolves, that you can have him try to attack his strengths of mashing against certain-handed pitching, and you can work on him with cage work or whatever else in Arizona and the spring training. Try to identify making better pitch, swing decisions, whatever they're going to work on. Because I'm sure they see something, and it does make sense. He was a highly touted guy, former top 100 guy. So I mean, take the gamble. What do you got to lose? I mean, he costs nothing, so fine.
Yeah, right. You gave away a couple arms that whatever could have been. I mean, Steven Wilson was non-tendered last year. He was pushed off the 40-man line. So it's like, we got to give a waiver bait. Might as well take a shot at these guys. And you have, and the thing is too, there's not much depth in the outfield coming up anyway. So this is your time to give some of these guys a shot. I like to gamble personally, and I thought, okay, I'm happy to see Chris Getz doing this. Now, something a lot of people weren't happy to see Chris Getz do was to non-tender Mike Tauchman. I was surprised, actually, when the news came through. I was like, I know it was a possibility. It could happen. But looking at that team last year, and Tauchman had a 356 on-base percentage, and that wasn't a team that had a lot of good on-base guys. I'm looking at him like, I'm surprised by this. Sleepy, would you agree with the White Sox cutting him loose, or do you think, or would you have been of the mind to hang on to Mike Tauchman in this situation?
So I went back and looked up what he signed for last year, and it was like 1.15, 1.95, like just under 2.
Okay.
And so his arbitration number was, I believe 3.4 projected from MLB trade rumors.
Yeah, and they're usually pretty good at that. Actually, they're usually pretty tight on the projected.
They're pretty right on it. So that's you know, a sizable raise. And I guess if the thinking is, well, we could probably bring him back for 2.5 if you want. Okay, like I understand letting him walk or non-tendering him. It just, I mean, he was good, but he's also kind of getting older, and his legs don't really seem to work that well, which is not a good recipe for an outfielder. If he was coming back to just DH and be a vibes guy in the clubhouse, makes sense.
Yeah.
But given, again, kind of going back with some roster construction, how often is he going to play there? Or if they had left field open, maybe he doesn't have to run so much. But Benny's stuck there or has to DH or Caro or Teal, who's ever not playing. So kind of didn't fit, although I understand why people wanted him back, and he was a good player for them last year. Yeah. I was definitely surprised to see how mad people were. You know,
it was a reaction.
He's good. He's fine, but I don't know. It reminds me of like when people got all mad when Jason Benetti went to Detroit, and everyone was like, "Oh, I'm done with the White Sox." Like, really, the announcer? So I don't know. Like, I like Benetti. It's all good.
I do too, but I was like, this is a little much. We're over. Well, I think we're channeling some other bad feelings into this thing right here. Is what it feels like.
Yeah, a bit emotional reaction. So,
Well, Sleepy, you mentioned it though. You mentioned that there is potential for them to say, you know what, we don't want to pay that projected number 3.4, but maybe we bring you back at a lesser amount. Do you think some of the calculus here is that they told them, look, we don't think that's the price. Go out on the market. You can find better. Go ahead. If not, come back and we'll make you an offer that we think is reasonable. You think that might be part of it?
Yeah, no, I definitely think so. Because even it was on Inside the Clubhouse this past weekend. Josh Barfield was on there amongst all the other dribble about Nashville and I don't know, salary caps that we don't need to get into because that was just tough to listen to. But Barfield did mention that, they would be open to Tauchman coming back.
Okay.
Potentially. So I think it's a thing of, like you said, hey, go out, you can test the market, see what it's like, and maybe we can work something out down the road. Because he's not like a guy, I don't see him, not many people are going to be really banging down the door, I don't think.
I don't either, yeah.
So you can test it, see what it's like. And I know some people were mad too, like, well, why didn't you trade him? He did have some, like a clause in his contract last year. It was a relocation fee for like, $250,000. And I don't know if that went into it. I know I think his daughter had a medical thing. I believe that's why he was kept around. I don't know.
I heard something like that too. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if that's specifically just for last year or the previous years, but I know that was somewhat involved. The support system's all here. He's from here.
Yeah.
That could just be doing a guy a solid to keep him around, which is good. That does kind of help you at least in like the circles of like they treated me well and that kind of make it through to other people. So maybe it's just that they kept him around because he wasn't trying to be away from family, going through something. And maybe it's something they explore later in the offseason. Like, hey, we could still use, a fourth, fifth outfielder, DH, fill in type, come back for $2.5 million. For a year. And I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned why wasn't he traded? Because I saw that out there too, and I was thinking, I assume that before they non-tendered him, they tried to trade him to some other teams, and it didn't seem like anyone was that interested. So maybe even at the deadline, there might not have been that many suitors. Because you think about it, most teams that are good, that's just a bench bat. I mean, he's not playing every day for those teams, and he did, in my opinion, serve a purpose for the White Sox down the stretch in lengthening that lineup. We have a lot of young players in it. It's better if there's one more old head in there that hits a little bit and kind of can help out and take some of the pressure off these kids. And so I thought for last year, I was fine not trading him for what little return you might have gotten with him at the deadline.
Yeah, me too. Because it's lottery ticket, A-ball reliever. Like, okay, great. Maybe a hit. Maybe becomes a sixth, seventh inning guy that is useful. But I mean, I get it. Kept them around. They were the vibes team in the second half once everybody was called up, and he seemed to be a part of it. And they seemed to like him. I didn't hear anything bad about him. So I get it. It's just the overreaction to the, oh my God, sky is falling. It's like, okay, let's chill.
Fourth outfield. Let's relax. Yeah. All right, let's close this up. I saw an article by Eric Longenhagen at Fangraphs, and he wrote about the 40-man crunches on certain rosters in the American League. And I always love these articles because they talk about the 40-man bubble and who should be protected and who might get traded because they're kind of on the edge of this stuff, whatever. And as I read through the article, I'm looking for the White Sox. I finally get to the bottom of the article where Eric Longenhagen says, not very crunchy. And he leads off with Chicago White Sox, also includes the Minnesota Twins and the Houston Astros. We've already talked about how the White Sox only protected 2 people at this 2025 Rule 5 deadline. I want to read for you the potential players to protect in 2026 and 2027 and then follow that up with a question. So in 2026, the White Sox potential Rule 5 decisions are Noah Schultz, Christian Opper, Riley Goins, William Bergoya, and Haral Perez. In 2027, out of kind of known prospects, the Rule 5 decisions would be Hagen Smith, Braden Montgomery, Sam Antonacci, and George Wilco. This has led me to the conclusion, Sleepy, that I asked Teresi, and I'm asking you now. I'm sad because I think that the White Sox farm system might still stink. Talk me out of it. Tell me that's not the case. Because as I look, I don't think the 40-man gets that crunchy. And honestly, when I look at some of the potential decisions, I assume many of these guys are going to be in Chicago like this year. So there ain't going to be no decisions for them later.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think there's kind of 2 ways to look at it. Okay. And so that, like, the one way is like, well, these decisions are going to be easy because the rest of them stink and it doesn't matter. But the other way is we know who the guys are that are going to be protected. So the spots are, Schultz, Hagen Smith, because Braden Montgomery will be up, assuming health should be up this year. You would expect to probably see Hagen and Noah. Antonacci is probably another guy I would expect to see this year. So, that's kind of like addressing the need, or addressing the thing, getting out in front of it to where we're probably just going to see them and they're going to be added. So, and then how we touched on it earlier, that there's still fat you can cut off and it's not going to be that big of a deal because once you're getting these impactful guys to kind of come in, that's kind of your roster. So, like, in one sense, the farm rankings and all that will suffer because all the guys are here now.
Because the goal is to have a good big league team. Get those guys up there and have the big league team.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of the point. But so what they kind of even doing with the draft and why drafting high school prep guys is kind of valuable in this case is it gives you, in most cases, because it's how that works too is it's age based. So like when Colson Montgomery was drafted, he was 19. So instead of the 5 years as a high school, like Rule 5 guy, he was 4 because he was older than 18.
He was older. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So, but in general, most of the high school prep players you're drafting are 18. So that gives you 1 year to kick the can down the road, so to speak, to have to make a decision on them. Yep. So unless like George Walcott really blows up in the next couple of years, he might be a level by level guy and just needs that because he's so young. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just it takes some guys time to develop. So, but going that route, it also, takes the immediate decision in a sense out of your hands, and even international too. But the Sox really haven't had any international success or guys to have to do this for. So that's another issue that they at least seem to be trying to address, building a new complex and there are rumors of signing a 12-year-old in 2030 and, all that stuff. But so I'd say like not being crunchy now kind of makes sense. And like the system ranking where it was at the beginning of the season to where it was at the midpoint, they were a top 5 to 10 system. And then they were middle of the pack in the preseason rank or the midseason rankings because all the guys pretty much from the list were in the big leagues.
Yeah, they graduated. And they were, and a lot of them were playing well. Like, so that's
like that's what you want,
Right.
So like, I'm not gonna bang them for that because like, that's kind of the point. That's what had been missing from the last one was just having guys come in and look the part and play. So, and given the system now, like the state of it, there's some flashy names up at the top with, Noah, Braden, Caleb Bonnemer, Hagen. Then you kind of get to, I don't want to say like safer, but lesser known, your Tanner McDougal is on there, but Opper, like guys that have built up their stock within the past season. Now they have to obviously keep that going.
They were off the map. They are now on the map because of the performance.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what,
because of the performance. And so, and even that kind of hopefully bodes well for the incoming class of players that we've seen progress, with these guys, with these recent draftees in this new organizational structure. Now, obviously, everybody's not going to hit. That's not how it works. It'd be great if it did, but it's just not going to happen that way. But that's why you have to have, guys, like people just coming in. And that's why it's, and again, too, important that the Sox hopefully can get some good lottery luck, the draft lottery luck, because
that's coming up too.
Yeah, obviously a top pick is great, and it'll help for potential, future rosters and all that. But also with the budget you have in the draft, picking higher gives you more money to play with, and they'll have the second pick in rounds 2 through 20. But having the top pick and whatever the top bonus amount is, nobody ever gets the top, the full slot at 1-1, but it just gives you more money to play with. And then hopefully if you can trade for a slot later, like you still need to be building up, that prospect pool with some fast, quick movers, maybe like a college guy. And then like, how they've been kind of teetering between high upside prep guy, maybe, like Rob Chalowski, if they happen to get 1-1 and, something like that. I don't know.
Exactly.
Hopefully, but that's for months from now and 2 weeks from now, hopefully good draft luck. But yeah, that's why it's like all this dumb stuff that they had ignored for so long or not give a crap about came to bite them, because when you run out of people people are hurt on the big league roster, everybody stinks, and you call guys up and they can't hit or they can't do anything, and then you're just searching the scrap heap for anybody with a pulse. Like, it's nice to have waves of guys that can hopefully just be solid. And and
well, no, you actually you make me feel a little better talking about this, because you do bring up a good point that guys like Tanner McDougal, guys like Christian Opper, guys like Sam Antonacci, they were not on the map. They weren't like your first round pick, your second round pick. These guys popped from further back, and so you're seeing more development than we've seen in the last regime. You're starting to get some of these guys filling. Now, I agree with you. I think in the international, that's where the layer they're missing right here. The fact that they haven't really gotten anything from there, so you have none of that age group coming up and kind of like helping out these groups around it. But it is encouraging to see that. You're right about the bonus pool. If they get the bonus, they get that, like the 1-1, and you get all that extra money, whatever, they can take more shots like Tanner McDougal. They're like, those are the shots you want to take. Like Dylan Cease was a shot like that years and years ago for the Cubs, where he was a 5th round pick, but they paid him a bunch more bonus because it's like, all right, we're going to make sure you don't go to high school. We're going to develop you right now. And like, those are the shots that turn into some guys. So like, it could be encouraging. I need to see the White Sox sign the 12-year-old for $6 million, and then I'll feel really good, because then the international is on the right track, Sleepy. That's where I'm at.
Sure. Yeah. So that's, I want to say 2030 class. So we got a little bit until then. And they're not going to talk about it.
Ishbia's infusions will come. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They brought it up. Because if you're thinking about it, like that's what kind of what happens. And Sox fans went crazy because they didn't know that the other teams do this. They have like the 13-year-old that's like basically under contract until they're 16 to actually sign.
Yeah, I mean, I know I talked about it too with Ian and James on one of the Future Sox podcasts, and it's like, if you think about it, it's like a gross system on how it works and how it operates, but it's the system, and everybody else does it. And I mean, I understand that not wanting to do it, but we've seen nothing from a literal pipeline of talent, or a lot of above average baseball players come from, that has been ignored by them for far, far too long. And like, I get the uneasiness of it, but if you can't just ignore it, like it's the weird, like the double-edged sword of dealing with the Buscones, and
but you gotta be in on this. You gotta have an academy, and you gotta be in on this with these younger kids.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of
and
is
so,
what it is.
And so hopefully, because like the new academy, I believe, opens after next year or at the end of next season or something. So hopefully that'll help get them modernized. And I want to say like they're projected for some interesting guys in the classes, but like, again, this kind of goes back to these guys have had deals 4 years.
Right.
And they're just eligible to sign now. So they probably had deals 2-3 years ago. If they're a top one, sometimes they fall through for whatever reason. But
conditions change and they come out of there.
Yeah. But
Roki Sasaki ends up in the pool, and then everyone's like, "Oh, we're going to go for that guy now." Yeah, some stuff can change. So yeah, that's the truth. Yes. Yeah. I was gonna say that would be something. That would be something interesting if the White Sox did start really investing in the international leagues, and it seems like they're making the steps forward to doing that. Man, it almost brings a tear to my eye to think about that. Sleepy, thanks for sharing your thoughts on 40-man ads. Ronny Hernandez, Mike Tauchman, and the state of the White Sox farm system. Remember, we ain't trying to be right on the show. We're just trying to understand. Everything you want to plug before you go?
I mean, it's kind of like our off season for Future Sox. I'm sure we'll be, paying attention with the draft lottery and then Rule 5 stuff. So, you can tune in for us there. Obviously, James and Ian do the weekly shows, all that. I don't know. How about you stay on the Blackhawks business first and foremost? How about that one? Send that tweet. I
know, they're 0-3. I didn't mean that. I was asking a question, and people, it was funny. I'll be honest with you. A lot of Blackhawks fans came and explained it to me in terms which I can understand. Only a handful of them dunked on me. Like a fair amount dunked, but a lot of people just came and said, "Oh, this is just, this is like if the White Sox in 2018 or like the 2019 White Sox basically stepping up really quick and like, oh my God, they look like you got something here." And they were like, the only difference is they have a real superstar on that team with Bedard.
Yeah,
so like it's kind of a little different.
In a bunch of cap space in a cap league. And that's the thing. So it's like,
it's
so promising, but frustrating.
Yeah. The people generally spend to the cap. There's not usually, so you're going to add some players. So that was good to see. Sleepy, always good to talk to you, my friend. I hope I see you at the ballpark a little more.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'll be, next season can't come soon enough. I'm already sick of being cold. So
take care, my friend. Good to see you.
See ya. Thank you.
That was Sleepy Harold. I love Sleepy Harold. Long time guy, Sleepy Harold. Next week's guest is going to be nobody. I'm taking the week off. Next week off. We are going to do a few more ajus though before the end of the year. I'm working on guests for them right now. I might do a solo one to wrap up the year. We probably won't get to 40 episodes this year. This is episode 35. But we plan to knock out a few more for you guys. Thanks to Punky's Pizza and Pasta and all the One Away families up in the YouTube comments. Appreciate you smashing the like button, comments, and of course those drinks and tips. 2 good tips today. Appreciate that very much. We will not see you on Thursday, as that's Thanksgiving, so there'll be no 108 podcast. Next week's 108 podcast on December 4th, I won't be there. Just going to be the boys without me. So until then, see you guys, and I love all of you. Bye-bye.